and welcome to the Raw Review. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by another Dudley boys, Michael Sidgwick from WhatCulture, to review everything that happened on last night's episode of But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review Raw, but also SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete. A quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Cedric to review Monday Night Raw, all the fallout from Money in the Bank, and a bit like Money in the Bank, I just had a load of fun watching this show.
I can imagine you did.
Yeah.
I can imagine you did. I didn't hate it either.
Okay. I'll take that.
There were things I actively enjoyed on this show. There was a development on this show where I thought, this might not be quite as bad as I thought. And there was, as a person who studied the craft of writing, who enjoys the craft of writing, I can enjoy a good plot without enjoying the experience, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah. I don't want to be hamphlet about it, obviously. You never want to do that. But as someone who can appreciate how things are put together, I thought there was some very, very eloquent plotting. Again, I'm filling in for my erstwhile colleague here. He's not erstwhile, sadly. I don't want to compare it to one of the best things ever, right? But what I love about... You ever seen Seinfeld?
Not enough. I should watch more of it.
Seinfeld, the classic era of Seinfeld, they would structure these shows across 22 minutes, where there'd be like an A plot and a B plot. And the way they would arrive to connect those two things together was always like, you'd have to stand. I might have stood up and given it a standing ovation in my living room to say, how the hell have you put those two things together? There's an episode called The Marine Biologist, where it's like, how have you put those two ridiculous plot threads together? And it's just a masterpiece of plotting and storytelling. And obviously it's not that, but I do appreciate the craft. This was really well crafted at points, to the point where I had this disturbing thought on the way into work. I was just thinking about Raw, collecting my thoughts, how you're going to form them when you do the podcast, etc., etc. And I'm thinking, I would rather Tony Khan just book AEW, right?
Yes.
You know the worst thing about all of the bad faith podcasters and the worst people who just want to grift for attention and clicks and revenue on their podcasts, doomsday, without any actual enjoyment of it, when some of what they have said in the past, some of the things that they have said in the past are kind of coming true. And maybe they're more savvy than I thought, because now they can say, see? What kind of irritating arsehole would say, see? Because I'm thinking, right, if I'm Tony Khan, and for whatever reason, I don't want to just book it all myself, obviously with input from the wrestlers.
Yeah.
But, he's got a team now. There are actual writers. And I know that there is an ex-WWE writer there. I'm thinking, if for the first time, right, rather than get a wrestler come writer imported from Impact Wrestling /TNA, I'm thinking I don't want to say it.
Go on, say it. Say it.
I'm thinking in terms, there might actually... Oh, God, please don't get me confused with one of the others, right? There might actually be something in hiring someone who's written a TV show. Not in terms of the dialogue.
Oh, my God.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
There were just certain ways that plots overlapped here where I thought, there's that. Because it was a dirty word in professional wrestling for so long. Those soap opera writers and all the rest of it. And God damn it, you saw Mr. Ziggles.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I'd rather drag my balls through broken glass than watch that segment ever again. And that's not even considering the John Cena. The idea was, and it was quite true all along, they might have something. I mean, they might have the ability to craft a plot, but they're under Vince, and their job primarily is to avoid getting the bollocking and the conniption fit and the gasket blowing and just do what he wants. Your skills are completely useless, if you've even got any. The way these bloody shows are plotted, you got to think, my God, there might be something in it. I hate myself. Let's get on with the review of the show.
Okay, let's dive straight into it. Because, who could have called this? Oh, we did. CM Punk opened the show. I was really jazzed when I saw the tweet from, I think, Sean Ross Sapp last night of like, Punk's opening the show. I was like, great, fantastic. And then as we got into it, when they went, it's Liv and Dom in the main event, I went, is it now?
Is it?
But yeah, Punk comes out. He says, I've got a lot to talk about, obviously, with what happened at Money in the Bank. But first, he wants to address someone he spent many hours in the ring with. He congratulates and thanks John Cena ahead of his retirement tour, of course. He says, I don't know what the future holds, but I'd like one more round before he goes. I want to see that once more. I
saw it a million times in 2012. People forget. They never stopped running that back.
Yeah. Yeah, they're chasing that Money in the Bank. 2011.
It felt like low-key, to use a younger person phrase, that probably shouldn't. Low-key, Cena versus Punk almost turned into a Triple H versus Orton, where it's like another pay-per-view of this. What are we doing?
Meltzer was saying, I was just chatting to Phil about this on the news. Meltzer's sort of speculating on what they're going to do with Cena, obviously because he's doing Rumble and Chamber and Mania and then like a whole host of dates across 2025 because of Netflix, of course. Meltzer was like, yeah, he'll probably have him win the Rumble. I was like, what? Don't give him the Rumble. Not this year, not next year. Can't give Cena the Rumble. I know it's his last year.
At an absolute minimum, the character should say, I want it all. One last time.
Oh, yeah, he should be in the Rumble, but he shouldn't win it. Rock should win it, obviously.
That's too bad. Gunther versus Cena. You tell
that's what I said on the news,
as
exactly.
someone who isn't necessarily a huge Cena guy, I can give you 10 matches that I've adored that I'd worked. But as someone who isn't a Cena guy, if you consider some of his best work, like Kali, Umaga,
yeah, that's a good point.
Fighting
actually.
from underneath, when he remembers to sell, Cena versus Gunther could be something. It really could.
Takes big things to put down. Gunther, of course. Ilja Dragunov nearly died. There was a brain buster from Sami Zayn. Lightning fist.
I didn't want to step on your dick, but I was going to say lightning fist just to make it feel like a hack. As much of a hack as John Cena.
But anyway, Punk says Cena's not here tonight, and someone else who isn't here is Drew McIntyre because he went and got himself.
He didn't actually say that though, did he? He said.
What did he say?
He went Drew McIntyre.
Yes, I do apologise.
Yeah, you should.
Putting a silly voice on. I went doing a recap. He says, anyway, there's a simple lesson here. There are consequences.
Consequences? What are they? I know consequences. I know consequences.
There are consequences for your actions, guys. Hey, Ronald Koeman, there are consequences for your actions. Finally comes on Wednesday night, possibly. Or we get battered. I don't know. Anyway, Drew shouldn't be surprised he only held the title for a few minutes because there are consequences for your actions. The following night, he blew it again on the Raw after WrestleMania due to consequences. And the consequences are, you're looking at him. CM Punk. He's the consequences to all of Drew's stupid actions. He flew all the way to Scotland to prove it. He did it again on Saturday night. I think this was the point where he basically said, I'll fight him anywhere. He said that he promised that Drew promised that he'd cash in and take the title, but Punk made a promise too, and that was that Drew would never be champion as long as there was air in his lungs. He wants his hands on Drew, but he can't do if Drew's suspended. The people of Canada want to see him fight. He'll fight him anywhere. He'll fight him in the parking lot. He'll fight him in the crowd. He'll fight him in the cheap seats. He'll even fight him there behind the camera where there are fans. A little veiled shot at AEW. Quick thoughts on that?
Quick thoughts is he cut his return promo on Collision in front of no fans, if I recall correctly, in the same promo in which he said that he sold out every building in Chicago with a roof.
People got really wound up about that little comment, didn't they?
I mean, I'm not being funny, right? The guy's obsessed. He's obsessed. He's clearly harboring some very bitter feelings about his time there. Every single time, seemingly every single time, there's a microphone in his hand, he has a little dig. That's CM Punk for you.
Yeah, no one reacts.
And the fans just don't react to it at all. I mean, I enjoyed the Jack Tunney reference, but no one in that building knows who Jack Tunney is.
Yes,
it's a different set of fans.
He wants Tunney or Pierce or whoever it is to lift the suspension on Drew so he can fight him. But Pierce doesn't come out. Seth Rollins does. Signature!
song. They always sing it as well.
Yeah, and with that infamous entrance, Punk took the time to go and sit on the commentary table, grab a headset, and say,
This is good.
This entrance takes too long, and had some fun banter with McAfee and Cole there. While Seth just comes over and glares at him. He says, now you want to sit on the sidelines? Come on. You bloody love the spotlight. You get in the ring, or are you afraid of getting your ass kicked? Punk laughs and gets in. And he said, look, I warned you last time. It's the only time I'll let you speak disrespectfully to me. Watch what you say. Seth's like, me? Disrespect the best in the world? I wouldn't dare. I just need help understanding what you're saying about consequences and why that applies to everyone except you, CM Punk. He understands a lot of what happened on Saturday. The ref made a mistake. Drew cashed in. He gets all of that. But what he can't wrap his head around is why Punk decided to do the one thing that Seth told him not to do when he showed back up, and that's stick his nose in Seth's business. Punk's like, I didn't stick my nose in your business. I was handling my business. This is personal. And he brings up Becky, Seth's child, talks about it being personal. Nice sort of moment that, saying, yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? There's a man running around with a bracelet with my wife and dog's name on it. I like that. Real edge to it. Basically, he wants to get his pound of flesh. He's got no quarrel with Seth.
Copeland.
Whatever his pipe dream is, he's not trying to screw things up for Seth. It's just personal with him and Drew. And he basically says he's trying to apologize. Pay attention. Where are my manners? He says, trying to apologize. He's trying to apologize, Sid. And he says, pay attention, please. It's worth it. He says he's sorry. He apologizes. He didn't mean to screw anything up for him, but he's snowblind with rage. He's got a singular focus. So Seth's got that too. He screwed it up, so he's sorry. But it's Seth, so he can't really be sorry.
Funny.
I love the Punker. Seth accuses Punk of gaslighting. He's never sincerely apologized for anything. He thinks he's got it all figured out. He's sly, he's crafty, he's the king of propaganda, but he's got to be the dumbest smart dude he ever met.
They're all dumb, smart dudes in wrestling. Yeah. Every single one of them.
He's got most of it figured out.
I'm a dumb, smart dude, I think.
I'm just a dumb dude. He's got most of it figured out, except for the one thing that he doesn't realize, and that's the world does not revolve around CM Punk. He can be a selfish bastard.
Selfish?
Selfridge's bastard. Branded. Burn bridges, but he'll let everything slide because it's above him. It's not just a pipe dream for Seth, maybe for Punk, but not for him. For him, being champion is the most important thing in...
Yes, winner.
Thank you. He could take a cheap shot at Punk here, but he knows Punk isn't 100%. But he promises that when he is cleared, he won't even be able to say the name Drew before Seth snaps his arm and puts him back on the shelf because actions have consequences. Seth leaves and CM Punk just smirks and looks at him.
This was really, really strong stuff. The highlight of the show, as you can probably guess from my tastes. Like, this is so good that it almost justified my complaint with the Money in the Bank finish being, at what point does Drew McIntyre appear to be an idiot? Like, come on. The way in which this all happened at Money in the Bank, and now it's forked, so you've got two directions. You're going back to Punk versus Rollins, and that seems to be set after Punk versus Drew. Like, really, really well done, and how you tie that into Damian Priest. Like, the way these characters are interacting with one another is genuinely really, really, really well-crafted stuff. In terms of the verbal performance, Bernie Sanders meme, I am once again asking you to turn CM Punk heel. I mean, he has done it. He plays at the minute in WWE. He's not a full-on babyface. He's like a troll. He's mischievous CM Punk. He's got that edge. Dare I say it, a tweener. It's just the easiest shorthand to classify him, right? In AEW, at times against Kojima, against Joe at times, in Long Island, basically the last month of his first run. Situational heel, I guess. There's just something about his demeanor, this megalomaniacal self-belief. What if he just turned full-blown heel? Wouldn't it be the best thing ever? All of that history he has accrued since 2014. Why isn't he playing a full-blown heel? And I guess there's time. He's probably going to be there for, all going well, 3 years. He can turn heel next year. There's maybe no rush, and sell the T-shirts while you can, and you should probably have a match as a babyface. You should probably have a match as a babyface, and maybe there's time. There wasn't an AEW. It's just he's captivating.
Oh, he's got that twinkle in his eye, hasn't he?
Yeah. Like he's captivating, hypnotic as a TV presence, an excellent performer, and I don't know if it's just him the way he's just completely scorched the earth since his return in 2021. I'm begging to just be able to jeer him. The idea that it's this hard man who's like in the right, and I just, your attitude stinks. Do you know what I mean? Do you never watch him and just think, oh, you're a bit of a knob? Is it just me, or is it,
I can understand Seth's frustrations completely.
That's the thing. I thought Seth this is his best performance opposite CM Punk, and maybe just his best performance on a microphone in ages. He felt like a guy who wasn't a geek for once. And I know that sounds like really damning praise, but it was true. I just agreed with everything he said.
That glare. Is it Rue? I think is.
Yeah.
When CM Punk said that.
Yeah, his facial expressions were fantastic throughout. I just felt the first time it just felt like Seth was saying the talking points I half expected him to say. It was weird his approach the first time because he was just like instant apathy of can't be arsed with this. I'm telling you in advance, I can't be arsed. And he did in fact say, hence why they picked it up last night, just don't get my business and it'll be fine. I cannot be arsed. That was a hard one to make for great television because his approach had to be, I'm already fatigued by this. This time was a bit of a warning shot and a bit of fire, and it was just I thought this was captivating television. And this is a third interaction. They had that one where it all went the train wreck one before WrestleMania. That was amazing, but like, don't know what I think. No, I was like, all right, okay, well, he's dead, then, isn't he? This felt like Seth Rollins had a bit of agency.
Yeah,
like he had something interesting to say. Like he just didn't feel like a geek at all. And it was like, it was powerful from Seth Rollins, this. Really powerful stuff. It's just, again, the CM Punk stuff. I know the potential. He's already the best heel of the century. He just is, right? Now that there are very good reasons to maybe think he is an arsehole, why not run with that and have him as a full-blown heel? I can't get behind anything he does. I don't find him like justified. You know what I mean? Like even in his own head, like I don't have a rooting interest in CM Punk at all. Mainly, maybe it's like a bit of a behind the curtain thing. Maybe it's just the character and how trolley he is and all the rest of it, and you're gonna have to buy into the great cult of CM Punk to really have a rooting interest in him. I'm just desperate for the bloke to turn heel. Absolutely desperate. I've been saying it for months, if not years. Every single time he appears on camera, but just that attitude just radiating from him. I'm just desperate to not have to buy that I should have a rooting interest in this character. Great television, but I think with a little tweak, with an actual just go with him as a heel, it could be even better. But yeah, I mean,
they built six months basically building to a match.
Yeah,
where one of the guys is injured the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, the way they've linked it to the Seth stuff, it's just, you know what you're going to get with Punk for the rest of the year. You don't know the results of any of the matches. No. I mean, it's all done so well. It's like a 9 out of 10. That could be a 10. That is my complaint, and it's hardly a strong one.
We go backstage. Obviously, Postman Pearce has been very busy with the events of Saturday and Drew McIntyre and what have you. And so when Dom comes to moan, why am I still in this tag match with Liv Morgan? He's like, I'm sorry, I'm just busy. He's like, well, I don't want to tag with Liv. But Liv asked for it last week. I don't want it. I don't care. Match is official. It's our main event. Happy Monday. Good luck. Anyway, here comes Liv Morgan. She's doing this for Dom to show Rey who the real daddy of the family is. Dom says, fine. Just make sure we win. Liv wants to talk strategy. Dom wants some chicken tendies or whatever.
I mean, he doesn't have to be 8, does he? He doesn't have to be 8 years old. I understand.
Well, I like chicken tendies.
I understand that he's like one of the young ones in WWE. The median age of the headline crew is about 41. But he doesn't have to have chicken tendies, does he? I mean, he's 26 years old or whatever he is.
Offer me chicken tendies, I'll take chicken tendies every day of the week.
You sound like a baby.
Baby wants his chicken tendies. Should we move on?
From the podcast.
Jey Uso versus Chad Gable. You know, sometimes people come out and sometimes they've got an injury and that's a legitimate injury and that's fine. And sometimes it's just like, oh, they're wearing the tape to sell for what happened at the weekend. You're like, okay, very good. Yeah, I believe Chad Gable needed his entire chest taped up for that bump. He took at Money in the Bank.
Guts rearranged.
But he still snaps off some suplexes and some holds, and he gets thrown over the top rope, but Gable catches Jey as he goes for a dive, and it's a belly-to-belly to take us to a break. When we come back, Jay's fighting back, hits a suicide dive, frog splash off the top, gets a 2 count. Eventually, though, Gable catches him in an ankle lock, and as Jey is fighting for the ropes, we get the Wyatt 6 sound effects, and the lights start going off, and Chad Gable panics, lets go of the hold, he's looking round, nothing happens. Jey Uso spears Chad Gable, 1, 2, 3, and I love Jey Uso's reaction to the Wyatt 6. He just like, I'm just getting out of here. Quick, yeet. See you later.
I did like the quick yeet.
Yeah, still, there's always time for a yeet. Yeet. Bails. Chad Gable's just laid out in the ring, the smoke and what have you. And we see Sister Abigail, Nikki Cross, yet again, pop up near the announce table. Gable wakes up, realizes what's happening. Again, terrified, runs up the ramp, or crawls and then runs up the ramp. And Nikki's got that box in hand with another tape in that she gives to the commentators.
Yeah, didn't think much of the match. I mean, it's a Jey Uso match. You know what I don't need in my life is another phase of Jey Uso doing his Road Dogg dance punch thing. Like now he'll do the... Now he takes the top off and then punches, and then he just has to have Chad Gable do the Mortal Kombat. In the face now if I don't wake up. Oh, I've been punched in the face. Jey Uso's doing the moonwalk. I cannot be asked. I mean, I understand that there's got to be a bit of theatre.
Yes.
It's pro wrestling. If I wanted to watch MMA, I would watch MMA. I don't. I'm a wrestling fan. It's too much. Too bloody much. So, Nikki Cross. I've got some thoughts, but I think I'll address them later.
Okay, we'll get back to this. We get a chat into Sheamus. 15 years, says Jackie Redmond. Hell of an achievement. Fair play to him. He's done it all, almost.
What happened to those 15 years? Jesus Christ.
He says he's almost done it all, basically. He put banger after banger after banger. He's interrupted by Bronson Reed, who says that everyone should be talking about me. I've got a match tonight. I'm the future. You're stuck in the past, Sheamus. Sheamus calls him a crybaby, and he says, let's have a bare knuckle fight. Reed versus Sheamus, like proper fellas. Reed says, I'll fight you anytime, but not tonight. You just have to watch now to see what I do to your mate, Pete Dunne. Which led us to Bronson Reed versus Pete Dunne. Reed knocks him over immediately, but Pete Dunne fights back. It's a moonsault to the outside to take us to break. When we come back, he's targeting the fingers again. But Reed powers up, power bombs him onto the mat. They fight on the top turnbuckle. Again, Dunne's targeting the fingers, but Reed knocks him down. Tsunami, 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, looks like Reed's going to kill him or hit more tsunamis. But Sheamus runs down to make the save. Reed goes to the headbutt or gets a headbutt. Sheamus comes back with a running knee. Dunne gets involved with like a drop kick as well. And a brogue kick gets rid of Bronson Reed. Sheamus is like, hey, I remember you. Rolling Brutes. He just tries to give him the old headlock thing. And Grumpy Pete Dunne shoves him off. He's still bitter about the end of the Brawling Brutes.
Yeah, I mean, either direction he can take's half decent. Pete Dunne and Sheamus in a tag team.
Tyler Bates injured, by the way. That's part of the reason of all this.
Okay.
Get well soon to Tyler Bates.
I'll take either. I'll take Sheamus and Pete Dunne in a tag team. I'll take them having a match. What an interesting dynamic that could be. A pure brute, no pun intended. Wordplay. Dickhead. Just got a message there that kept me off my thoughts. I'm happy with either direction. The match is... I can't take Bronson Reed seriously.
I was trying to explain it to Phil earlier as we were running through the news stuff. And I said, oh, yeah, Pete Dunne wrestled on Raw last night. He's been doing stuff with the... I always get them confused. Not No Quarter Catch Crew.
New Catch Republic.
In NXT. Tyler Bates got injured. That's why they've obviously just put Dunne back on the main roster. Makes sense. Great wrestler. And then I went and he wrestled last night against the big lad. I was like, that's not good. I can't immediately...
Face like a bit of a baby. Social media activity like a bit of a baby. Yeah. You will sell for a gust of wind. Like it's a spear. No instincts. No aura. Bronson Reed. I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life.
Yeah. I like what came next. Seth Rollins is backstage, walks up to the Judgment Day, wants to have a word with Damian Priest. Priest gets rid of them all. And Seth says, look, it's better to be lucky than good. Saturday, you were very lucky, but you were also very good.
So it's good to be both, is it?
Most importantly, you kept your word, no Judgment Day. And since you did that, I'll keep my word. I will not come for that title as long as you've got it. But as good as you were on Saturday, you've got to be better at SummerSlam when you face Gunther, of course. Seth goes to leave.
As good as he was. Okay.
Damian Priest says, I've still got a lot to prove. I know we had that gentleman's agreement, but with the way things went down, no, when I'm done with Gunther, if you want another title shot, you just name the place and they shake hands. Priest gets a phone call. I wonder who that could be, saying, where are you? But I did quite like this development because I think it sort of makes sense in terms of Priest's character and, of course, with everything that happened on Saturday. It's cleaned it up a little bit. It's never going to fix the botch.
Yeah, one of the better ways to, quite frankly, renege on a stipulation.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll come to that. I think Gunther's going to win.
Exactly.
But the idea of, it was what it was. We still haven't really determined who the better man is. It makes sense for Seth to say that, and given that he's going to be a babyface sooner rather than later, Damian Priest, it makes sense for him to do that. It's one of those things where it was a bit of a naff stipulation in the first place, and maybe it's very generous. Like the idea of WWE reneging on its stips is just so, like, everyone's so callous to that idea. No one ever expects them to follow through on anything. But I mean, part of me on principle thinks, I'm starting to get a little bit angry now. That's a joke. It should, like, the biggest, hottest, most moneyed wrestling promotion should maybe be held to account more. But it's hard to give a toss when it's happened so often. So now are you reneging on your stip? All right, okay. Well, sky's blue. Water's wet.
Yeah.
Maybe I should be harsher. Either way, it makes it's one of the better ways to do it.
Sami Zayn comes down to the ring. Intercontinental champion, of course, still. So it's an honor to hold the title in the nation's capital, representing Canada. Oh, Canada. No. He brings up Bron Breakker, talks about his power, his strength, his speed. But he makes...
That's like Bron Breakker.
Bron Breakker.
Got a job on like an AM sports show or something. Bron Breakker. The Bron Breakker.
He said that Bron made a mistake thinking Sami was the underdog. He's not an underdog anymore. He's the champion. He's been putting in top-level performances for years. He's earned some respect in this ring, and Bron just didn't bring that, which is why he found out the hard way that it's hard to keep Sami down. Bron Breakker comes out, stares at Sami. Sami's like, what you want? Fight? Rematch? You're just going to keep staring at me? Gives him the mic. And Bron says, I came out here to look at the man, the only man who can say that they beat me.
It took me a while to get these ones out, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I want to look at him in the eye. I didn't think it was going to be you, but you're a smart guy. Look, there's no reason for me to get a rematch. So, look, I've been thinking, and boom! Have some of that.
And I've been thinking, boom!
Big spear. Obviously, the refs and the officials will come out and be like, all right, leave him alone, Bron. But Bron realizes, I've been in this situation before. And he runs around the ring and just spears Sami out of his goddamn shoes again. Out comes Ilja Dragunov to try and fight Bron and defend Sami. Bron's like, ooh, so scared. And Ilja goes to check on Sami. We said it wasn't the end for these two.
No, it's a decent enough way of doing it, I guess. Is it? Or they're just padding things out?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Hamlet was only called this, that Sami wins and they just run it again at SummerSlam, or then they run it again somewhere else.
Yeah. They do like to do that.
Yeah.
Look, it's one of the... Yeah, To be honest, right, I couldn't give a toss about this. The match was good, not great. At Money in the Bank. That doesn't inspire much fervor or optimism for a better sequel. The way they've potentially arrived at the rematches.
Maybe a triple threat with Ilja involved. I don't know.
Maybe the way they've arrived at the sequel is a bit. This Intercontinental title division was fantastic about 3 months ago, and now it's. I don't want to say it's bad. That's too harsh. But if you look at what's happening with Chad Gable, Bron Breakker not being it really at Money in the Bank, and then this is the most piss weak way of getting a second match.
It's because it's such a quick turnaround as well for SummerSlam, like 4 Raws, isn't it? Basically, you just have to get back.
The idea of I don't deserve it. But
I liked your idea of him spearing 3 local competitors.
Yes, that was good. I'm very uninspired by this. It's a weak way to get a rematch. The actual match wasn't great. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it feels like they could have just done Bron versus Sami at SummerSlam and done the title change, but then it was like, well, we're in Canada. Let's have a Sami
Zayn versus somebody else.
Exactly.
They don't mind beating Ilja, and as I said before, that's not a bad idea because Ilja's so good that he could play the gatekeeping ace of NXT, and he could chase Gunther. He's the best kind of babyface because he can do both really well. Yeah. And on recent evidence, they don't mind having Ilja as the guy who's going to be losing and then chasing, which is fine. We know he can do it. He's done it in NXT UK. I mean, I saw it on the takeover, but he's done it in NXT UK. Sami versus Ilja could have been the match.
Could have been like the
I wouldn't have beaten Braun.
Kalani, Jordan, Sol Ruka, sort of respectful friends. Well, we both want this title, sort of thing. Yeah. Oh well.
Too late now.
Ilja and Postman Pearce are checking on Sami, and Ilja wants Bron later on in the evening, and Pearce says you can have it. Then we get the trios match, Judgment Day, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Carlito versus Awesome Truth and Braun Strowman. R-Truth and Miz got attacked during their entrance. And then JD McDonough gets chased out by Braun Strowman, of course. In the ring, no messing about. Miz and Truth hit Finn and JD with some FUs, and Miz flies over the top rope. There's a 5-knuckle shuffle in there.
Gets over the top rope. I think flies is a bit much.
Yeah, it's not quite Kenny Omega-esque, is it? Let's be honest. Anyway, they get a near fall, go to a break, come back, and Strowman's getting a hot tag. He destroys JD McDonough. He tries to chokeslam Balor, but Carlito and McDonough get involved, and he just kills them. Strowman and R-Truth just batter all of Judgment Day at that point. But McDonough baits Braun Strowman into chasing him around the arena again, basically, and that allows the Judgment Day to take advantage. R-Truth was running wild, but Balor takes advantage of all this. Dropkick, coup de grace, 1, 2, 3. Strowman can't make it back into the ring in time, and Miz looks a little bit miffed at losing again.
Well, do I need another Miz heel run? Do I need Miz on my television set ever again? The answer to both of those questions is no, of course not.
John Cena described The Miz as the most underrated wrestler ever.
Why didn't you treat him like that in the ring? Their matches together always stunk. Cena never seemed to take him seriously. The Miz is not underrated. I would say that The Miz is very fairly rated as someone who can slickly orate scripted material, and he can do a lot of the moves in the order he is told.
He's got a beautiful wife
with large breasts. That's what they say, isn't it?
I think so.
Who cares if he sucks? His wife's got tig old biddies. That's what they say. You know what? This match was silly, knockabout loud.
Yeah.
If you like it, fun.
Yeah.
You liked it?
I liked it. I really like what they've done with Braun Strowman. Just constantly chasing JD McDonough from arena to arena. And obviously, it's the new tag champs, so they're going to win. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Backstage, Punk's chatting to Pearce. Punk's still not cleared. That's half the problem. He says this has to stop, does Pearce. But he's going to call Drew, schedule a meeting, and, it's set for next week, basically. But Punk can't be around. And if he picks a fight again, one more, fight's off. Punk says, I just want to finish it. And Pierce tells him to go home and he'll deal with Drew. And then came, I think, my favourite moment in the entire show. We are not quite in the clubhouse, but we're in the Judgment Day's room. And backstage, Liv Morgan tells Dom they need to work on some double team moves. And he's very apprehensive about all this. And she's like, hey, you need to relax. You need to stretch out, if anything. And she does the thing. She's pushing on his leg. And Dom's like, oh, this feels kind of good, actually.
Look here, man.
And of course,
he's got an erection right now.
Yeah. In that moment, I always think of, I'm sure there's loads of examples of this, but Triple H and Trish is the obvious one you go to. They're doing something that looks dodgy, but it's innocuous. It's just practicing moves or stretching out calves or whatever. In comes Priest, Finn, Carlito, and JD, and they're like, what the hell's going on in here? And Liv just cackles and leaves. Priest like, I don't even want to know, man. I will go to bat for Carlito yet again, star of the show. Priest says, Dom, you should be done with this. It's not that hard. Carlito says, it's pretty hard to me.
I'm surprised he got that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he had an erection.
Okay,
yeah, he had an erection.
Dom's like, you remind me of my dad, the name Priest. Priest's like, I can't understand why your dad hates you so much, basically. He's going to put an end to this now, though. And Finn's like, hey, what was that surprise you're on about? And Damian Priest says, you'll find out, don't worry. Dom's definitely going to find out by the end of this show. Brilliant.
Yep. I mean,
not that hard. Yeah.
Look at him, he's absolutely creased. He's creased.
Great.
He's done it.
Great stuff.
You know what's the big irony?
What?
You know when one of your old famous bits, long forgotten until I've just remembered it, and it's just popped into my head. You used to poke fun, Wilbourn, at what about the Attitude Era?
Yes.
What about the Attitude Era? About all the people who were like just desperate to bring it back, and it's like it's dead, it's dead. The second you see Attitude Era adjacent content on WWE programs, you just start jacking it, basically.
Yeah, basically. Right, then we got...
Did I just shock you? I actually like the Attitude Era.
Then we got an update on the Wyatt 6, or at least the Wyatt 6 video. It's Bo Dallas, and there's all the effects and what have you, the distortion. Occasionally it goes from Bo Dallas's face to Uncle Howdy's face, and this disembodied voice asks him about family. He says he took those that no one wanted, the discarded and forgotten, and he gave them a purpose. They're so happy that we remembered them. Being a glutton for punishment doesn't make abandonment hurt any less. We basically get clips of each member and the character and what have you. Bo says has been lost too much, but grief is the price you pay for love. Now we must set the captives free. They need no master. Then he asks if we think that they're sick, and the Invisible Voice says yes. And we get flashes of all the members. Ends on Uncle Howdy. Then back to Bo, who says, then sick is what will be. I'll group this together with what came immediately afterwards and get your thoughts on it, because Gable immediately after that is panicking, going, obviously talking about me. What are you going to do about it, Pierce? And Pierce is basically quite rightly says, you ever stop to think about why maybe people are targeting you? Gable says, I'll fix this, but I can't be responsible for how. And he bails, wants a vacation, bails. And then we see Pierce open his office door, and who's sat in there but a sort of nervous-looking Bo Dallas. Thoughts on all this?
Thoughts on all of this in the Wyatt 6, right? This was the clearest indication yet of a twist. The clearest indication yet that original reporting from Fightful Select of this is going to be more rooted in reality, not supernatural, and the Wyatt 6 will not be sort of supernatural demonic entities or anything like that. if you combine just the quite almost jarring visual of Bo Dallas just as Bo Dallas as a human being in the normal world of Raw, sat down. If you combine that with the video and the content of the latest VHS, that to me is the strongest indication yet that this is not a supernatural group, and that it might, as a result, have a fighting chance.
Yeah.
But there's always a but, and I will get to the but. There's always, even when you entertain the idea of spooky, there's always a problem. And I'll get to the problem, but it's better than what it could be so far. The way Bo Dallas / Uncle Howdy, one and the same, whatever, narrated this video, it was suggestive of the fact that they've taken the decision to adopt these personas for the purposes of what? To intimidate their opponents, for whatever purpose, for whatever ends, they've decided we're going to, it was the line was key. If you want us to be sick, sick is what we will be. Like, they've decided to, basically, this is all a very theatrical, stagey way of saying, we're going to alter our personalities just like wrestlers do to drive programs in any sort of feud or whatever. We're just going to take on these personas. Is that any different to the Great Muta? Obviously, the Great Muta is 10 times better than all of this. But is it any different to something like an alter ego that has been done successfully and without too much in the way of absolute ridicule in the history of professional wrestling previously? Is it any different? And I know these are lofty comparisons, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that Bo Dallas's Uncle Howdy will have the same effectiveness, the same match quality, the same credibility as Mick Foley saying, you know what, I need to go to a certain place before that language and vernacular was bastardized by Adam Copeland. I'm going to be Cactus Jack. The way that this video unfolded, it felt like them saying, right, we've been abandoned, we've been ignored for too long, we sort of want to make a statement, we're going to adopt these alter egos and wreak havoc on WWE or whatever. The way it was presented, and I know there's different things on the show that might undermine this, but that video, if you just take it in isolation, it was very much, we're going to become alter egos. It's been done before successfully. I don't see why, other than the quality of the wrestlers involved, quite frankly, it can't happen again on a pure... I can suspend my disbelief for this, which was always the problem. Now, I'm not a goldfish. I remember the events of last week, and in fact, last night, they're still doing that stagey horror stuff where Nikki Cross emerges from the fog.
It's like a jump scare at the end of that.
And a jump scare at the end of that, And they did that weird light show last week on Raw where they appeared to be, in front of these lights.
Yeah, the spotlights, yeah.
The way this seems to be unfolding is that they are just intimidation tactics as opposed to, we can conjure light.
Yeah.
We can conjure fog. Does that to me is that too far away to my music magically comes on when I make my entrance? Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either, to be honest. But in the heightened world of American pro wrestling, how dumb is this really anymore? It was a bit of a turning point potentially in the portrayal and how rooted it might be in reality or otherwise. I've got another problem. I've always got a problem. Yeah. I've got another problem if that is in fact where we're going with this. But what are your thoughts on it? Because you seem...
Yeah, like I've said from the beginning with this, I was always excited to see what this looks like, but incredibly apprehensive because it's... And I know, people have said, oh, you guys have hated it from the beginning. It's just not really our kind of thing.
And that's fine.
But we have said...
Do you like every feature film ever made?
No.
Do you like every pop song ever recorded?
Almost, but no, not quite.
I mean, it's a ridiculous... I'm allowed to like what I like and don't. But the idea that preference doesn't exist is a complete load of bollocks. Carry on.
Yeah, we've acknowledged, though, that the fact it is incredibly popular. It's always been incredibly popular, but this one seems to be really cutting through...
not incredibly popular.
Yes, but
I've heard the lack of reactions to
Yeah.
matches involving these sorts of characters a million times over.
but it's getting a lot of love on social media.
It's over in these buildings, big time.
And obviously, everyone, no matter how you feel about this, wants Bo Dallas to do well with this because, my God, what a few years he's been through. Right. So, nervous about it. It happens. And I was like, I'm kind of into this. The videos I've been enjoying the last few weeks, we sort of speculated on the preview yesterday whether or not that might be it, whether or not, you've established Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas.
This felt like the last video.
Yeah. Now you can go from here. But yeah, I really liked the video aspect of last night. I particularly liked how they didn't get involved in Money in the Bank because it sort of trivializes it straight away of we're here to destroy and change the world and be recognized. And also cost you that briefcase.
Yeah.
It would have muddied the waters a little bit too much for me.
You have to do this sort of thing at some point.
Yes, yeah, it always eventually comes down to actually wrestling, as we often say. But I do like the introduction of, there's Bo Dallas. That's just Bo Dallas. Not Uncle Howdy in the shadows or sign Postman Pierce's office. Bo Dallas is sat there. And you referenced it there. We saw it with, Bray Wyatt. You had The Fiend, but you had that match where once he was just Bray Wyatt from the Firefly Funhouse against Braun Strowman. You've said before, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, arguably Demon Finn Balor and regular Finn Balor have been you've pushed me to a point where I have to become this, like you say, alter ego character. If that's the direction they're going in, I still withhold judgment until we have a wrestling match. But it's captured people's imagination, no question.
It has. I mean, it all depends. This is the problem, right? Even if we are veering away from a supernatural direction and all of the aesthetics of spooky supernatural stuff, it's all like an intimidation tactic and just a way to do an entrance, basically, which is just part of pro wrestling in the US, right? Okay. Even if we get away from that, everything lives and dies on aura and how much you can take seriously, or enough fans can take seriously the idea that these wrestlers can credibly take on an alter ego. It is a hard thing to do. I know he's deeply unfashionable and a lot of people want him to go away, but for a long time, Chris Jericho was considered a living legend, and in 2019, he was turning in career work.
Yeah.
Absolute career work. And then he was also the Painmaker. People didn't let Chris Jericho do this. Consider how acclaimed he was, how funny people thought he was, how refreshed he felt, how big he felt in that relatively small promotion of AEW.
Wrestling's Madonna, wasn't he? He'd always come back and...
He was he finally had gone from B-plus player, if you want to use the dickhead phrase that WWE used to employ, B-plus player to... Jesus Christ, he's a living legend on career form, and he looks like he can be the ace of a company who might even compete with WWE. Yes. I'm just trying to give you the context of how big Jericho was in 2019, and then he was a Rainmaker, and people just instantly went no.
That's with the hook of what if an intergalactic serial killer could feel love?
Indeed, and what a hook that is. Your days are over, Spider-Man. But to be less facetious about it, that's how tall an order this is. Chris Jericho, and I have to just underscore, put in bold, whatever, all of this, because my God, he was on top of the wrestling world, no lower in 2019, ... And then he was the Painmaker. People just said, yeah, you can be Le Champion, you can be the ace, you can be one of the funniest guys, you can be all things to all men, Chris Jericho in 2019. You are not the Great Muta, and you're not Mick Foley. That is a step too far. Don't take the piss out of us. It's a tall order to do this kind of thing. Very few people you can just be Crow Sting if you want. Yep, you can do it, Sting. Muta, Kaiji Muta, you can be Great Muta. Mick Foley, you can be Cactus Jack. Very few people can just take on a new persona and say, that's fine. I'll buy it because it's you and you've got this legendary career, or you're so popular, or you can pull it off so well. Certain wrestlers can and can't get away with it. Bo Dallas and Dexter Lumis, it's going to be a tall order. And here's the other point. The twist is better. There's at least precedent for this sort of thing to work. We've seen it with Muta, we've seen it with Sting, we've seen it with Foley. There's precedent for this interpretation. If, in fact, it's true, this twist to work. The problem is that if they're not scary, supernatural, demonic entities, right now, Chad Gable, who not 6 months ago, maybe about 8 months, 9 months ago now, was taking the beating of a lifetime by Gunther and going back and back and back for more because he just really felt like he could do it. He didn't care how much it hurt. He wanted that pain. He wanted to prove himself against the toughest people. Chad Gable now, if these people aren't supernatural entities, is now scared of Nikki Cross with a smoke machine.
That's a good point.
With a dry ice machine. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's always going to be on some level farcical. It just maybe at this point is on a level that's less farcical than it has been, where it could have been, and there is actual precedent for maybe it to work. Those are my thoughts.
Fascinated to know your thoughts. Let us know in the comment section or on X at WhatCulture WWE. What do you make of the latest developments with the Wyatt Six?
Actually, it's just a big vehicle for Rowan to be an ass kicker.
Yeah,
that's where I would go with it.
By the way, I am shoot scared of the Huskus Pig Boy mask. It reminds me. Have you ever seen that Doctor Who episode?
Not one in my life. Actually, no. I watched one on iPlayer because kids in the playground had talked about it, and my kids were like, I want to watch this Doctor Who thing. It didn't hold their attention, and there's people who really like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to shut my mouth.
Okay. There was just one episode. I think it was the Christopher Eccleston season, so it was the first one back, first season back. It was just on. And basically, I think it was set during the Blitz. And again, apologies to Doctor Who fans if I'm getting this horribly wrong. Some alien thing, right?
Yeah, I think you've annoyed them already.
Yeah. It's trying to, graft its DNA onto it. So it finds the first human it can.
The host.
Yeah. And then anything it comes into contact with, it makes that person into the same thing. And
it replicates.
Yes, exactly. And it was a kid, I think, who'd died looking for his mum whilst the Blitz is going on, wearing a gas mask. So anyone it touched, their face became the gas mask. And all it did was go, "Mummy, are you my mummy?" I was like, that's too much for me. It's going off.
6:45 to 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, and he's scared.
Mum, put Gladiators on. I'll watch this. It's Doctor Who gives me the creeps. But whilst we're in the spooky zone, stick at it. It's time for, don't get scared now. It's time for the Raw Riddle.
Raw Riddle gives me the creeps.
So, Nicholas, you can help him out on this.
No. There's one.
I've taxed his noggin with this. We always do it. Yeah, feel free. Hit you with the riddle on the preview. Give you the answer on the review. And I said to you, Sidge, it belongs to you, but other people use it more than you do. What is it?
Maybe I'm getting a bit too philosophical here, but potentially. So it belongs to you, but other people use it more than you. So your heart.
Oh, it's not your heart. Any more guesses?
Maybe 3. That seems fair.
Yeah, with
3 guesses. That's like the rule of these things, isn't it? That is the thing. We haven't just made it up in the office because every time we play a game in the office, 3 guesses.
3, yeah.
3 guesses. It's not your heart. Belongs to you.
Belongs to you, but other people use it more than you do. What is it?
I know what it is.
Your I don't know. I've been riddled.
You've been riddled. Nicholas?
It is. And it would apply to both of you if you were both here. Your name. Is it not?
Adam Nicholas says, your name.
Bingo! Yep.
Let us know if
I mean, what about The Rock? That doesn't count for The Rock.
Sorry, yeah. That'd be great, wouldn't it? It belongs to you, but people use it more than you, unless your name's Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
What is it? But let us know if you got riddled or scared. And we'll move on now.
Thanks.
To a match featuring Bron Breakker and Ilja Dragunov, a match that at least 50% would probably describe personally as...
Thank you so much. Very entertaining.
I love these two going at it.
Honestly, it's so ugly in the best way possible.
Yeah.
It just looks like it really sucks to just be in that match.
They're like planning.
Good to watch, sucks to be in it.
Yeah. Oh, well, unless you're Ilja Dragunov. Do you reckon, like, Bron's like, what? Do you want me to tell you what I'm going to do? He's like, no, just do it.
Right, Starsky and Hutch. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. I'll tell you that, you know, when you first watched Starsky and Hutch, the film, the remake,
Yeah.
and you just want to say, do it. Did you ever just want to go, do it, do
Yeah.
it, after you watched
So he
it?
nicks that off thinking, doesn't he? Owen
Yeah.
Wilson, yeah.
Do it. And it's a fun thing to say in the days and weeks after you watch Starsky and Hutch. I taught my dog at the time,
I really thought you were going to say son.
Who
for
was-
some reason.
like, long dead dog, but at the time I would have been about 18 years old or whatever.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
You're laughing at my dead dog.
You shouldn't say it like that.
He was a rescue dog, and you know they didn't really.
Name?
Sam,
That's good.
golden retriever.
Oh.
Didn't really treat him particularly well, and didn't like train him. This didn't want him.
Just to clarify the people before you.
So we rescued the dog,
Yeah.
and you know, give him a better life and all the rest of it. But I hadn't really taught him nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, what kind of dog can't give a paw?
Yeah.
And my mum was gutted because I'll tell you a different story. We got the dog a bit too early after the old one had died.
Right.
And it was like, oh, he doesn't feel like Billy. And it's just like, this dog can't even give a paw. And I was like, for whatever reason, I was like, go on, paw, but I just couldn't do it. Right. I trained that dog
Amazing.
to give paws, not by saying paw, but do it. Do it. Do it. You could say paw to this dog, right, for years afterwards, long after Starsky and Hutch's, you know, got on sale in HMV, and, you know, it's probably fun to watch again, but it's not really stood the test of time as this thing that gets referenced or remembered or engagement baited or whatever. Years after, it just had its day. You could say, paw, huh? Do it. Paw?
Brilliant. Time well spent. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that because you've put the graft in to get the dog to give you the paw. And when other people come along like paw, it's like, well, you don't get the reward for that.
Oh, yeah.
No. You have to know the secret words.
That's another secret word. Do it.
So Dragunov and Bron Breakker kick the crap out of each other, basically.
It was very fun.
Bron just tackled him after Ilja was in control early, did that press into a power slam. Gets a 2 count, that goes to a break. We come back. Ilja powerbombs Breakker from the top rope. It's a senton. Almost wins it with that. Tries for a coast-to-coast, but Bron sidesteps and then just clotheslines Ilja to the outside.
It's good clobber.
Yeah.
Clobbering time.
Bron runs to do that spear of his, of course, but Ilja hits him with a knee or a kick or something to stop the momentum. Ilja's like, right, we're in a wrestling match. Let's break the count. Rolls into the ring, rolls back out again, and Bron just hoys a chair at him. That's a DQ.
That's a DQ. So he's got even less. He's got even less sort of credibility in terms of going for a title. He's
Yes.
now lost 2 matches.
Yeah.
It's a bit dumb, this, isn't it?
But he's decided he's just seen red. He pulls Ilja into the ring. He wants to kill him. Sami Zayn runs down to save him. Sends him outside. Sami checks on Ilja, who's got like I think he cut his leg or something. Bron just grabs Sami, posts him, chucks him over the table. Ilja tries to defend Sami. Over the table for you as well. And Bron just takes the straps down and stands tall. And I'm going to try and find the quote that Bron said whilst you talk about quickly your thoughts on this match.
I don't really have any. It was just it looked like it sucked to take as much as it was fun to watch. Wasn't blew away great. Wasn't a TV match of the year contender. There was just some really gnarly, ugly collisions, and I can only hope that never gets trained or drilled out of Bron Breakker. They've been trying and quite frankly failing to smooth that man's edges for a long time with these long selling performances when he was the babyface in NXT. Like, you cannot make him cleaner and a bit less easy to work with. the second it doesn't look like, oh God, you got, like, basically, if you're like one of the experienced guys in that locker room and not one of the ones like Sheamus, who just proper loves like that, or Ilja, if you're like one of the ones who's like, right, okay, I'm getting a bit older now, I have to wrestle a bit smarter. Like, I've got like, all wrestlers work through pain to a degree, but the ones who are like really sort of like, oh God, I'm really feeling my age. You want them, that type of wrestler, to look at the board when they're getting, oh God, fuck, I've got a break at night. Oh God, I'm working Bron.
Breakker away as well.
Yeah. Breakker will always, I still think there's room for improvement, but there's no room to smooth those edges, otherwise you miss the magic.
I think they did a great job of this, of sort of, like you say, covering up for what happened at Money in the Bank, though, because he said, talking about Money in the Bank, this is, Bron says, he defeated me in the biggest match of my entire career on my very first PLE. God forbid Sami Zayn, a WrestleMania main event, defeats me, a rookie, in my first PLE. And he continued, don't get thrown by the initial edgeness of this. I'm willing to scratch and claw and give everything to get back to Sami Zayn and win the IC title. Don't get it twisted. Yes, the marquee, the poster says Bron Breakker, but Sami Zayn, I'm going to whip your ass like a Steiner and take that Intercontinental Championship.
Just call him Bron Steiner. Very easy.
Yeah.
There's certain words and phrases. I told you about my board, the Tony Khan board, and WWE can borrow it as well, where don't do anything on this board.
Yes.
Write down a list of things on the board and just never do them. If you're tempted, just look at the board. The word scratch and claw, eradicate them from the vernacular of professional wrestling, please and thank you.
Hungry, hunger, anything. I'm starving.
Starving. Get my pound of flesh, and then I can eat that and satiate this hunger. Why don't you?
Time to sing my gig! There was a Damian Priest vignette offering Gunther out, basically. And then our boy's back, carrying cross. Vignette from the Final Testament. They updated us that Kofi Kingston's injured. I think he's got the same injury that Rhea Ripley right now is technically out with. So he's out for a few weeks. They sort of updated us on that, and they took credit for that. Karrion Kross talks about the old guard making way for the new. John Cena's time's up. He knows Woods is watching. Hell of a talent. Beat him last week. Fair play.
Was the implication here that he took a dive to pump up the confidence of Xavier Woods and have Xavier plant the idea in Xavier Woods' head? Maybe I don't need Kofi anymore. It's the master plan.
4D chess. He says Woods can become his own man, but not with Kofi. The New Day's dead. Woods is just the last to realize it. So saith the Final Testament. Also Karrion Kross, as I told you about in the office earlier. Patter on social media. So Drew McIntyre and CM Punk get fined for their actions at Money in the Bank, and then Drew calls Postman Pierce a bald bitch or something like that.
Incompetent bald bitch.
That's it, on social media. And Postman Pierce is like, congratulations, you've just doubled your fine. And then, let me find this. Karrion Kross in the replies to this says, where are we? Says, hello, Mr. Pierce. Kofi was swearing at children last Monday for no reason and also needs to be fined. He is deeply disturbed. Have a great day.
That's good. It's good. You know what else I liked about this?
Go on.
And I think this is just, I don't think anyone else would have noticed this in a million years. I'm not saying like I'm a big, insightful guy or whatever. I just, you know what I don't get enough of? Weird little guys chuckling maniacally in the background of things. Yeah. See Paul Ellering, he's like, I like that energy. You know, you don't see that anymore. Oh, I'm a big fan of it. He's like, I like it.
Yeah.
Proper little weird 80s guy. Laughing in the background of a shot.
I like you wearing both gloves. Just one. Weird. I like it. Damage control. I feel like I've missed. There was a damage control vignette somewhere, basically saying, oh, yeah, there we go. Tired of disrespect. And they're going to clip Lyra's wings because she's a bird, dance over Katana and Kayden.
They're going to the club.
They're going to the club. They're gonna change, basically. And then we got the match, damage control versus Lyra Valkyria, Kayden Carter, and Katana Chance. Big brawl to start things off. There was like a spot where all 6 of them involved in a big suplex. The babyfaces, Carter and Chance, nearly win the match with the keg stand. But then Io's guy just throws Kairi Sane. No regard for how she's going to land this or whatever. Just throws her through the air to the outside onto Valkyria and Katana Chance, I believe it was. And Carter gets dragged into the middle of the ring, and Io Sky wins the match with her over the moonsault.
Yeah, I mean, this was quite hot in the building, and there was enough moving parts, I think, to keep people sort of going, ooh, nah, and all that. Kairi Sane appears to have forgotten how to run the ropes, and that was a terrifying dive, the slingshot deal. I've got no thoughts on this. I try not to do it. It's my job to actually watch this. I can't help but drift off whenever the glurbs are in the ring.
But it was all for naught, really, anyway, because immediately afterwards,
didn't matter.
They get jumped by this new women's faction, this new stable they've got. Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville. They attack Damage Control. They triple team Io. Huge kick from Zoe Stark to Io's face, which makes sense considering the spots that we saw those two go through. There's a photo, by the way, I meant to send it to you, of Io and Zoe. Someone said it's as she's tombstoning it. I'll swear that was meant to be a Michinoku driver. Regardless, the spot is a great visual. I'll try and find that.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, that's another reason why Zoe wants to kick her head off. She also launched Io into a knee, and then Sonya caught her before she falls, and they hit the devil's advocate thing. I like this trio.
We'll see. It's about time they try to do something with the individuals involved. Put it this way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it didn't really get that big of a reaction, and precedent will always inform my sort of analysis and projections for things like Levesque's track record of booking stuff outside of the title divisions in the women's division has been piss poor. So I can't get too excited because I'm not naive. Fingers
crossed for them. We get a promo from Rey and Zelina ahead of the main event. Obviously, Zelina's pissed off that she would have won the title without Dom. And they're going to shut him up, basically. And then we get a Gunther promo talking about how mint he is, as if we needed to be reminded. And he's going to have it out with Damian Priest next week, basically. Main event time. Liv and Dom versus Rey and Zelina. Vega immediately goes after Liv Morgan, of course. So much so that she's like, I don't want any of this. Tags in Dominik Mysterio. Obviously, Rey comes in for Zelina Vega. But apart from the bit where Vega just hit a Rana on Dom, which is class. Liv runs into attack. Dom and Liv are on the outside. Vega, I think, tries to hit like a running knees on Dominik Mysterio, but Liv takes the bullet for him. But don't worry, Rey just sent on his own son anyway to take us to a break. We're back. Dom's in control. He's trying to rip his own dad's mask off. You should know what he looks like. There's I told you a story about when we had Rey at WCPW. He was just travelling back from like Manchester on the big shows. And spoiler, I hope I'm not breaking any rules here, but Rey wasn't wearing the mask. And we stopped at a services. And a guy was like, I was going to come to the show, but I couldn't make it in the end. He's like, can I have a photo? And Rey was like, well, not really right now. I've not got the mask on. But yeah, he's lovely. Rey genuinely deserves to be an arsehole like I would if I'd been in the business that long. Yeah, absolutely. Look how I am now, let alone. Anyway, but yeah, lovely bloke. Anyway, back to a father and son fighting. Michinoku driver cuts off any comeback from Rey, but he manages to send Dominik to the outside. Vega comes in to beat up Morgan. Middle rope Meteorist tries for the code red, but Morgan slips out and does the three amigos. Rey comes back in. He sets up Lion Salt, gets 2. Dom tries to hit the three amigos. I think he got 1. But he gets set up for a 619, manages to block it, but then did Zelina Vega just 619 his cock, basically? Because he's like in position for the 619.
Yeah, it looked really bad.
Yeah.
It was like one of those, like, I don't blame her for it. It's like that someone's like laid out the spot or whatever. Should be the agent's job to either not do that or not approve the spot. I don't know the ins and outs of whether the agent, the wrestler, which move they do, and which ones they pitch or whatever. Someone at some point, the more succinct way of saying this, should have stopped to realize that's a bad idea. Like the Club Girls finish.
I was on Twitter this morning, X, and people are sharing that clip from the Liv Morgan doc, isn't it? Where she's literally 30 seconds.
It's the most insane bit of media WWE has ever produced this. Go and watch it in full. It's like, why did... You didn't have to air it.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got nothing in your documentary other than, oh yeah, we had no plans for this wrestling. It's really chaotic backstage. Here's a documentary about that. Wild.
It's mad in it to be like, I think it's time to really showcase what it's like behind the curtain. I mean, clean it up a little bit. I have to show everything terrible that you did. It's atrocious. Anyway, she's in action in the main event of Raw. Let's get back to that. Yeah, and she gets involved. She posts Zelina Vega and she throws a chair into the ring to distract the referee. That allows her, whilst Rey and Dom are fighting on the top rope, to drop Rey, crotch him on the top rope. He falls down. Dominik, frog splash. 1, 2, 3. He beats his dad, finally. Post-match, he is ecstatic. So's Liv Morgan. They have a little hug to celebrate. He's like, oh, whoa. And she's like, no, come on, we've won. And she jumps into his arms, and they drop to the mat.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the sound of someone thudding on a mat.
Well, where's that button?
Have a quick check, see if it's anywhere. Ah, there it is. I've got my buttons confused. That's what happens. That's the noise you make when you fall onto a mat.
Okay, so that's the noise you made as well, dickhead.
And Dom is kind of giving into it at this point. He's leaning in. Temptation's finally taking hold when Rhea Ripley's music hits. The crowd goes bonkers. Liv and Dom immediately, get off me. Liv Morgan's like, I'm out of here. She bails through the crowd. There's a nice extra thing posted on social media of her like peeking through a curtain. And
the master plan's worked.
But yeah, Rhea storms down to the ring and Dom can't even look at her. And she sort of bollocks him a little bit. He tries for a hug. It cuts off, but basically she storms off before anyone can do this. Rhea Ripley's back. Fantastic.
I tell you what, right? This is kind of what I was alluding to in my in the intro, right? I would never want AEW really to completely borrow the very, very soap opera tenor of this kind of program. But the way that they've plotted and crafted it, and the way that they've used existing continuity and overlapping with different rivalries to arrive at this big angle and why the characters behaved in the way that they did. This is what WWE wanted to look like in 2002. This was Vince McMahon's big idea for it, and they've actually done it. Sports entertainment's actually a thing, and this is it.
Yeah.
So the whole point was, and I don't have to, I don't want to teach your granny how to suck eggs or whatever. But Vince McMahon, one, because he wanted to be above it. Two, he realized sponsors and advertisers think this is like wrestling's tawdry and all the rest of it. So he imagined this. Oh, we're not wrestling. We're sports entertainment. We're above it. And they really went full bore ahead with that when they could, and there was no competition doing wrestling. So it's we kind of have to do this. 2002, you get the fire. It's flooded with soap opera writers. They try and do all this kind of stuff, and it just never really took on. They've built an absolutely huge audience for it, and this is it done really well. You know what was a genuine masterstroke in terms of the plotting of this? It's like, how can we get Dominik to finally fall for this ruse of Liv Morgan and for that moment to come together at the worst possible time because Rhea's there, having him beat Rey for the first time.
Exact same thing.
The celebration, it's like he's going to get... This was, for something I don't even like that much, this was really, 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 really well plotted. Like, really well plotted. I can, like, understand why people go ape for this.
As it happened, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, he's been so, like, he can't suddenly be like, you know what, go on then. I've been really standoffish, and it's Rhea Ripley, but sod it. Yeah, the emotion of was he 3-0 or 0-3 was against his dad? you're the reason and she's literally is. She's involved in the finish. You're the reason I finally say, hey, you're a deadbeat dad and I'll beat you. And then...
It's good soap opera. Soap opera's not my thing, but you know when you can just see at those, it's all subjective and all the rest of it. There's nothing objectively good. It's I kind of agree and disagree with that. I know what I think is good and effective for its own genre, even if that genre isn't necessarily my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not... I don't know. This is an example. I'm not a WWE fan, but I can see that this is very, very well-crafted soap opera for what they are going for. It was weird, though. You got the hairdryer noise for that confrontation between Rhea and Dom at the end. It's like, I hate that hairdryer noise. But whatever.
So excited to see where they go from here. But let us know your thoughts on that and everything.
I can imagine Hamflet was jacking it watching this as well for once in his life.
Let us know your thoughts on this and everything we've discussed in the comments section below or on X at WhatCulture WWE. Watch that. You can follow both of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. And make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. We're going to be reviewing the greatest wrestling show of the year, NXT Heatwave, a little bit later on today.
Let's not go nuts.
I want to tell lies. But for now, this has been the Raw Review. My thanks to Michael Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.